I did her. Hey, if you're thinking about moving to Boston, Massachusetts, you are in luck. I've got Katherine Kranenburg right here beside me. I told her I was going to say her name like Kranenburg. Can you say it kind of like that? Katherine Kranenburg.
Yes. It's Dutch.
Dutch. All right, awesome. We got her right beside me. She's up there in Boston, Massachusetts. She's gonna tell us all about the place where she is. This is Wanna Move There, the show dedicated to all humans, giving them the information they need to move somewhere else out of their area, or to decide whether they want to move somewhere else, or if you just want to visit that place, take a vacation, sightsee, whatever. Realtors are always the best tour guides whenever you go somewhere. We know all the best places, especially people that were born and raised there. Like me, I am your host, DerekBicksler, realtor of 15 years right here in central PA. I grew up on the hill, as we call it, here in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Went to Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania. Why can't I say this? Mechanicsburg High School in Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania. Go Wildcats. And I went up to Penn College of Technology in, you guessed it, Williamsport, Pennsylvania. If you need to buy or sell a home, please contact me. You can call me, text me, email me, throw a rock through my window, send a carrier pigeon, whatever you need to do. We still need inventory pretty badly right now it's the last day of January in 2022. We still need inventory pretty badly, and we'll talk about that a little bit with Katherine in a minute. And whether you are watching live or on a replay, ask a question in the comments, or if you know one of us, hit us up in the comments and tell us where you are watching from. And a reminder that all the replays are on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Spotify, Google Play. Where else, Katherine? You can buy Kat too, right? That's too long for me to say every time.
Kat. Yeah, so I think we covered most of them, right? I think
So
is, the TV stations.
there you go. Well, you can get the YouTube on your Apple TV or whatever, so you can still watch it on your TV. So wherever you like to get your content, this episode and all the other ones with all the awesome real estate professionals from around the globe, actually, Nigeria, Portugal, Canada, working on some other countries and things. So wherever you need a professional, we can hook you up with one, and all the content will be sitting there waiting for you. And now I will shut up, and without further ado, let's bring in Katherine Kat Kranenburg, realtor up in Boston, Massachusetts. Up from here, maybe where you're watching, it's over or down or something. But from me here in central Pennsylvania, it's up. So I will shut up as promised. And I'd like you to tell us, well, say hi again, and then tell us the last movie that you watched while I bring up your bio information.
Oh, that's exciting. So yes, Katherine Kranenburg here in the Boston area. I'm really excited to be here, Derek. And let's see. So the last movie was actually on Netflix. It's called The Power of the Dog. I'm pretty sure it's going to win an Academy Award or definitely be nominated. I'm going to space on the main character. He's from Britain, and it's a really interesting film. If you're thinking about what it's like to be a cowboy and live on the range, it has that sort of motif.
Ooh, I like that. I wasn't thinking that at all. I like that you described it a little bit. So it's a drama? It
is a drama. It has lots of twists and turns and it can be slow. So it's one of those things, it's very thoughtful.
On how it says here on Wikipedia, Western psychological drama film. Psychological, so I guess you have to think a little bit, huh?
Yeah.
But it is on Netflix.
Yeah.
Do you watch a lot of drama? I haven't seen it pop up in my Netflix. That usually they're throwing things at me to watch. I must not watch whatever drama or whatever genre it's in too much.
Yeah, I tend to watch series, not really so much movies. But I love Academy Awards, so I make it an effort to see as many as I can. So when the big day comes, I can relate to it, and I love movies. So.
There you go. That's pretty awesome. Are you good movie quoter?
Oh my gosh.
I've got a couple friends from high school where we like dodgeball. A lot of comedy movies will throw out quotes from comedy movies at each other all the time. Or even like Total Recall, a lot of 80s, 90s movies.
Oh yeah, total 80s, 90s girl, for sure. As a matter of fact, I just played Pretty in Pink with my daughter the other day, and she was like, "Mom, everything is so dramatized. It's not that complicated."
So did it hold up? Did you like it as much as you did back then?
Oh, Molly Ringwald is classic, right? I mean, and Spader, the fact that he's still on TV right now, it's incredible. So,
he was in that, huh?
Yeah.
Nice. She's still alive, right?
Yes, she is.
Yeah. Pretty old now, I would guess, though.
Well,
All
we
right.
all
So when you were younger watching Pretty in Pink, you grew up where you were born in Jacksonville, Florida, and then you were raised in Houston. And you went to Cypress, Texas, large suburban high school of Houston. So anybody out there in Houston watching, we got Armando. Who else? We got Don out there in Katy, Texas. All those people know Houston. Is who else? Levi. No, he's Dallas. Texas, though. So Cypress, Texas. What was the mascot for Cypress?
So the school is Cy-Fair High School, and we are the Bobcats. And we were lucky enough that the principal, who had been there for, I don't even know, probably 30 or 40 years, had retired, I think my sophomore year or my 10th grade. Yeah. So it was, yeah, we were very blessed. And he was such a huge, powerful, and very community-minded principal, and he loved the school.
Huh. That's awesome.
Yeah. Cypress.
A lot of times I couldn't even tell you. I'd have to think about it for a while to even tell you who our principal was.
Mr. Watkins. And if anybody who's here in Cypress, Texas, everybody knows who he is.
Nice. And you did, what'd you say, the Bobcats? So another cat school. I found that like 90% of mascots seem to be some sort of cat.
Yeah.
We were the Wildcats. We had Harrisburg. We got the Panthers. We got the Cougars. We got a whole bunch of cats, Wildcats. And all those are on the same cat. They're all mountain lions. So I find it kind of interesting that there can't be any... Although Boiling Springs, where I live now, we're called the Bubblers because there's a spring that bubbles up. And it's probably the least aggressive mascot you could have, but at least it's different a little bit. And then after high school, you went to Texas A&M for college. You went for business and political science. Your favorite colors are red and bright pink. I'm glad you didn't say blue because 90% of people say blue. And I'm now to the point where if you say blue, I ask you for your second favorite. So if you had to pick between red and bright pink, which would you go with?
Red. Okay. Yeah.
And your favorite food is barbacola, and good Mexican food is barbacola some type of Mexican food?
It's a form of Mexican food, but it's basically where you slow cook like a steak and in like the slow cooker for several hours, and it just kind of like comes off the bone. And it's like a shredded meat, and then all the different sides. It's not like your typical sour cream and things like that. It's more like red onions that's in vinegar for a long time, and special like really green salsas and things like that. So we did a lot of cooking over COVID, and this became our go-to staple. And
the meat could be any kind of meat or whatever, or is there a certain kind of meat you usually use?
That's my husband's question. I'm the side.
He's the master of the. What is it? A crock pot or what?
Yeah, it's like exactly.
Nice. It sounds fantastic. I don't eat meat much, but if I do, it's got to be some really good meat, slow cooked and like caught down the street, raised down the street. I guess it could be hunted down the street from me as well, but yeah, that sounds fantastic. And then you put that, what'd you say? You put that like in a taco shell, or you eat it like open face, or what do you do?
Mostly soft corn tortillas is what we typically use. Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. And then you do have pets. What kind of pets do you have? Dog person, cat person?
Yes, we're a dog. And prior to COVID, we had tossed around the idea, but then we got the bug and got a lab from a breeder in Mississippi. And I would love to give a shout out to him. It was super incredible because, as you know, during COVID, dogs were on back order, if you want to call it that. There was like so many people who were waiting for dogs for 6 months. I think that was kind of our time frame as well. So his name is Ollie, and he's a pure lab, and he's a champagne color, so he's pretty special. And he's over
I've heard of yellow and black and brown. So champagne is different from the yellow, a little bit more pale, kind of?
Yeah, and kind of like definitely more of a beigey kind. Yeah. We get a lot. Did
you have to seek out that color, or you just happened to, that's the color you came upon?
Well, he specializes in champagne and silver labs. So, yeah. There you go.
Yeah, labs are awesome. I used to have a black lab. I haven't had a dog for a few years now because he died when my daughter was younger, and now we got the 3 kids to take care of. So I'm good. I'm good on the pets for now. But labs are awesome dogs. How old is the lab? Did you say? You
A
just
year
got
and a
him.
half. Year and a half. Yeah.
Did you teach him to do anything?
Oh, yes. Every command you could possibly think of, and food is a major component. He's super motivated by that. So it was
He wants
not
that barbacola.
not quite, but yeah.
That's pretty fancy. I know people that do. They pretty much get the same meal that the family gets at the same time. A little bit of nuts, if you ask me. But I come from a long line of farm type people who, like my dad was like, we didn't even take our dogs to the vet. They lived out on the farm. They lived and then they died, and that's what happened. We weren't putting them in purses or feeding them gourmet food or giving them sweaters or any of that kind of stuff. Doesn't mean they didn't love them, just means they didn't treat them quite the same way.
Yeah.
But I'm sure you love your other pets, which is a terrible thing to say. Your other kids, you have 3 kids, 2 kids, 3 lines of that you wrote here, but 2 kids, a girl who's 14 and a boy who's 12. They're both in middle school. What's that, 6th
Yeah.
and 8th grade?
Correct.
And do they like school?
They love school. They are super involved in a variety of sports and activities. And one is super into reading, and the other one isn't. But you can guess who they are. And yeah, I mean, it's been great. Newton is where I live. It's right outside Boston, and a lot of people move here for schools. So really top-notch schools. So it was kind of a no-brainer when we moved here from 4 or 5 years ago from Washington, D.C. So a lot of people move here for schools. It's a great experience.
And I can relate to the not wanting to read. Obviously, I'm guessing the boy is the one that doesn't like to
Yeah.
read. Is that a thing that boys generally don't like reading?
No, I just think our son he's an active kid, so he just likes to move around, and he's incredible at math and science. Like that's for him, that's like a no-brainer. And so sitting and reading is definitely not his favorite.
I'm with him on that. I got 1 wrong on the math portion of my SATs, and the English part of it, I didn't even read. I literally did the B, C, B, A, C thing because I hated reading, and I still got like a 1200 or something, which is crazy. But yeah, I'm with him on that one. So does he, for school, is it hard to get him to do like homework and stuff? I remember like the history homework was the worst because that was the one you had to read a lot to get the answers, because math, you know how to do it and you do it, which is probably why.
Writing English papers, I think, is the biggest one. Yeah.
Yeah. Or you read a page and you have no idea what the heck you just read. And then I'm done with it. I read this page 5 times. I still can't keep my attention on it. I'm done with it. The Cliff Notes, or not the Cliff Note, well, actual Cliff Notes, but the thing on the back of the cover, I would read a lot. I came up with tricks to read the novels that we were supposed to read without actually reading them. Reading the first and last sentence of each paragraph I found was pretty good because you got the gist. Or yeah, all kinds of tricks like that I came up with to get by. Luckily, there's Audible now, so your son can still get all the knowledge without having to actually read it. And you are married to Roger. How's Roger doing?
Roger's great. He was one of the reasons why, or the main reason why, we moved out of DC to Boston. And he is doing some pretty amazing things in his field. And, I think we all want to make a difference in our lives and those around us and in our jobs as realtors. And I would say he's definitely found that.
Is he also a realtor? No.
No, he's not a realtor. He's super supportive of my business, but how he's making a difference is really environmentally. So Boston attracts and has a lot of environmental interest and groups. So I guess we're getting right in. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel on that. I'm a little bit of a tree hugger myself. I've been known to keep disposable cups like this. Me and there's one other guy at my firm. He's one of the original partners, like 80. We both keep like an old cup written on it, "Do not throw away." People think it's trash. Nah, I'm using that one again and again and again until it deteriorates, and then I'll throw it away. So I'm with you on that one.
This is renewable energy. So it's very interesting and dynamic. So Yeah.
Yeah, good field to be in right now, I would think.
Yes, and we just we have snow blizzards here in Boston as we just had, and so definitely helping those that may have not had power and things like that. It's just really, yeah, he very hands-on.
Huh. Yeah, that's awesome. I should do an episode. I want to hear more about what he does. Start or you should do an episode with him and tell what you're doing there in Boston. That would be pretty cool.
Hmm.
And then your hobbies, or maybe you do some of these hobbies with Roger or the kids. You like to go to the gym. I think that's alone, right? The dog walks, that could be with the family. Nature walks could also be with the family. And then you're a foodie. Let's start with the gym. You go pretty early. Is that what you said?
Yes, yes. So my goal so far this year is I used to start at 6 o'clock last year, and now I've like pushed it back more or pushed it up more. I wish whatever one, and now I strive for 5:30, which is not that big of a difference. But when you're waking up at 5:15 versus 5:45, that 30 minutes really does change things. Um, and I started really focusing on the gym last year. I had a big birthday, a big milestone, and I wanted to be mentally and emotionally, physically stronger. It wasn't so much like a goal of like weight loss. It was just more of like a mindset. And as we all know from Atomic Habits, like just little routine changes that build up over time. So gym has become my favorite thing, and I do anything from a variety of classes and Stairmasters. So but it wasn't an overnight thing. It took a long time, but I've been really excited about it. So, yep, gym is important.
And the kids, they're 12 and 14, so they're pretty self-sufficient in getting up and getting to school. Because that's what I'm thinking right away. I couldn't leave in the morning when I do have the kids. It's all them until like 7:30, 8 or something, which then led me to be getting up at like 3:30 or 4 o'clock, so I could do that whole thing and then be done by 6 a.m. when they get up. So are they pretty self-sufficient?
Very self-sufficient, but I'm usually waking them up when I come home at like 6:15. So um, actually, they don't miss me. Neither does the dog. It's a great time. I come back and everyone's awake.
You're pretty close to the gym then.
Less than 8 minutes.
All right, yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Got to live close to the stuff. I don't know
I
people
know, I
why
know.
people put up with commuting or driving long distances. Although I kind of do it to my house right now, but yeah, I'd rather live close to the stuff than own the stuff is always what I say. I'd rather live close to a national park or a park or a basketball court or something and just go use it rather than putting in my own basketball hoop that I got to take care of in my backyard. So let's bring up our Boston map. Well, actually, tell us after college what you did and then how you got into real estate, and then we'll start talking about Boston.
Okay, great. Yeah. So being from the great state of Texas, I went to Texas A&M, which is home of Aggie Land and Aggies. So,
What is an Aggie? I knew.
so an Aggie usually represents more of like a way of life and very community driven. They have a strong core of cadets. And so a lot of people will go there to train and to build. It's like building strong character. And they have a dog as the mascot. His name is it's called Reveille. And so for me, Aggies are just all about like a lifestyle and a movement, positive thinking. And there's a ton of traditions. You actually get a booklet when you decide to attend there, and it's really of all the traditions, and it's so deeply rooted for many years back. So it's really interesting. So A&M is in College Station, and the whole town is really the university. So yeah,
It's like State College here at Penn State. It's drive an hour and a half into nowhere, but it's State College, and then it's its own town and everything. I'm sure during COVID it was completely dead up there when everybody went home and wasn't on campus and everything. So did you say Reveille, like the song, isn't that the trumpet thing in military?
Yes.
And that's the dog. The mascot's name is Reveille.
Yes.
Gotcha.
So yeah, there's all these traditions about so for example, we're in football season, right? So You stand the whole time for football games. The only time you sit down is when the visitors are playing, the band on the field. Otherwise, you stand up the whole time.
Oh God. I wouldn't be going to games very at least not at this age. Maybe when I was younger, sure. Now, no way.
No, yeah. I mean, it's just really in-depth traditions. And I had a mentor, and that led me to spending and heading over and doing study abroad, which then led me to, after college, I did a work abroad, which brought me to London. And then I ended up staying for over 7 years, visited and lived in Holland and Florence, Italy. And I did a lot of work, and I met a lot of interesting people. So when I came back to the States and moved to DC, culture and international relationships have been super important to me, which led me also to my real estate. And you can imagine in DC, there's a lot of people moving back and forth culturally and with the embassies and that sort of thing. And that's a huge draw here in Boston. If I want to go straight into real estate there, I would say this is a very international city. And I would say it's still a growing place to come to. We're not quite LA, but we're there. We're pretty much there.
Nor should you want to be necessarily.
Right, exactly. But the cost of living is still growing. We're still inexpensive compared to New York and LA and Chicago. But so yeah, it's a huge attraction for international. Obviously, the universities here is a big one. And what led me to real estate in the beginning was just knowing that my husband and I wanted to grow a family. We wanted a flexible option to also, be a mom and to work as well. And just meeting and seeing all these amazing houses, of course, that's always a huge force. And really, I would say just helping people. It just seemed like the most, I guess, comfortable place to go.
Yeah, the freedom and the service to others seem to be the two biggest things. And the money's pretty good, but people think we just, like you said, show pretty houses, but there's a lot more to it. I remember I had a friend, I was showing him houses, and he would just hit me up, let's look at this house. And after a while, I started realizing that he wasn't even running it past his wife at all to go look at these houses. And then I was like, look, is she on board to look at these? He's like, oh, I'm sorry. I thought all you did was just look at houses all day. I was like, dude.
Oh my goodness.
All right, I best explain it. And then he learned once we got under contract, that was the deal from heck. And it fell apart. It needed a new roof, blah, blah, blah. And then he kind of learned, that's not just what you do is look at pretty houses all day. So I like that. And my question on your last name, so Kranenburg, or however you want to say it, that's Dutch, you said, which would be Holland. And you were in Holland. So is that your maiden name, or is this did you meet Roger over there, or where'd the name come from?
So Kranenburg is Dutch. My husband's actually from Guyana. And yeah, so his family is Kranenburg, and he's a mix of Guyanese. His mom is Chinese, and he has Dutch heritage as well. So the Kranenburg comes from that. And it was interesting because we didn't meet there. We met in DC, and we found out that we grew up 30 minutes away from each other in Texas. We both lived and worked abroad, me mostly in Holland, him in Germany. And we both lived in Italy, him in Milan, me in Florence. And so when we met, it was sort of like, well, wait a minute, is there some sort of there was definitely a lot of synergy, right? And his mom would always say, okay, I think you guys knew each other in a past life, which, was always nice. But so when we got married and my friends came over from Holland, they were like, you finally married a Dutch person. So there you go.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it makes sense. Dutch people are pretty into environmental stuff, right? Aren't they? They're like the most progressive, right?
Yes. It's amazing.
They're carbon neutral or negative, their whole country, right?
Yeah.
Very impressive. That's cool.
Yeah.
I'd like to visit sometime, or I feel like if I go over there, I got to stay for a long time so I can see a bunch of places rather than going back and forth for a bunch of years. So I feel like I got to spend a month and then it puts it into this category of cost that I don't want to do. So just need to go somewhere. Just start with Iceland. That's pretty cheap and easy to get to, I hear, as far as going
Yeah, haven't
over
been.
there somewhere. All right, well, let's talk about, now you're a realtor up there in Boston, and I'm going to bring up my map, if I can find, there we go. Bring up the map for all the people watching all over the world. My little Google globe, so everybody can see where it is, and you can see the pin here is on the east, northeastern, about as far northeast as you can go, other than, what do you got? Vermont and Maine above Massachusetts, that's about it. And New
Yeah,
Hampshire. So on the East Coast, and it is actually on the water. And I'm just going to quickly read the quick facts here on Google, and they pull it from Wikipedia. And per Google right now, it's sunny and 20 degrees Fahrenheit, and we're about the same temperature, maybe a couple degrees warmer.
That's a balmy winter right there.
Yeah, this week was supposed to be a little bit last week it was super cold. This week it's supposed to be a little bit warmer than usual. Is it the same up there? Are we getting the same kind of swings?
Yeah, it was 8 degrees this morning. Now it's 20.
Yeah. And then the quick facts per Wikipedia. Boston, officially the city of Boston. I don't know why they add that. Of course it's
Right.
the city of Boston. Boston, officially the city of Boston, is the capital and most populous city of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts in the United States and is the 24th most populous city in the country. The city proper covers 48 square miles with a population of 675,647 people in 2020, also making it the most populous city in New England. And what does New England consist of? Is that like Connecticut on up?
Yeah, so Connecticut, New Hampshire, Vermont, Maine. Yeah.
Not New York.
I think New York is its own state, country, and city. So I don't know if I would put that, but yeah.
It's its own everything. Yeah. That's funny. And to put it in perspective, for 675,000, that's a lot. And around here, Harrisburg is like 50 or 60,000. So you're hundreds and hundreds bigger than us. So it is a really, really big city. And now I'll take my map down and we can talk about what it looks like there. So you are north and you've got all the trees, probably the same trees, oak trees, pine trees, kind of the same stuff we have here. Is it also mountainous, hilly up there?
Yeah, so I am in Newton, which is right outside, less than 10 miles outside Boston. And so this is considered what the greater Boston area, Metro West is really what it's called. And yes, a lot of people, again, move to Newton because it's super green. There's lots of trails, biking paths, walking paths. I feel like everyone here actually owns a dog, or I meet so many people dog walking now that I have one, I guess. And yes, mountains, definitely within 2 hours or less. You can go to New Hampshire, you can go to Vermont. I think, being in a state that has 4 seasons, people stay active a lot. And a lot of people would think, oh, it's got really harsh winters, long winters, but people own houses. These are definitely second home markets, Vermont, Maine, and New Hampshire. People will leave on a Friday. They don't come back on Sunday. Their kids are in, ski clubs and that sort of thing. So it's definitely a lifestyle here for sure. And then if you're into beach and you want to live near the water, that's like an hour and a half, 2 hours, definitely on the Cape, which is another great second home market. They went through the roof this past year. And again, you can go for a day, you can go for a few hours, you can go for the whole weekend, go for the summer. So yeah, it's really, geographically, this area is amazing. And of course, you've got the city of Boston. They have over 32 neighborhoods you can choose from. So, and all very unique.
And so it's right on the coast there, on the water. So is the city proper and the immediate area pretty flat, but then it doesn't take, obviously the Appalachian Trail runs the whole way up into Maine and past you, maybe not directly past Boston, but is up there. So there are obviously mountains and things. Is the city proper kind of flat and then you got to drive inland a little bit to get into any mountains and hiking and that kind of thing?
Yes, exactly. So there is a huge area called Seaport. And obviously, as you can tell, it's on the water. That's been a huge area of growth for new development as well. And yes, Boston in general is all flat. And you would say, so Boston proper, I guess you could say it's Seaport, South End, Financial District, Southie. Yeah.
Southie. We've heard that in the movies. That's probably the only section, like the Bronx. It's kind of, would it equate to like the Bronx and Brooklyn and all these boroughs of New York City? Kind of like that?
It's also like a huge, fast growing area. Really interesting cafes and restaurants. I can't remember right now off the top of my head, but I think there's actually an Instagram called Caught in Southie, which it focuses all about like the businesses and what's interesting there, history. So they're a really good one. I'm just going to do a plug in for them because I think it's super fun.
Nice. And then Matt Damon and Ben Affleck are from Boston, right?
Yes.
That's how I know the term Southie, probably. Yeah. And then Mark Wahlberg?
Yes.
Is he Boston? Yeah.
Yes. So he has.
Do they still live up there?
I don't know if they're here full time, to be honest. Yeah. But
I feel like the burger place is in Boston or something, right?
He has a variety of ones, and they're actually in the Logan Airport, Boston Logan Airport. He has one there too. And what's interesting, fun fact about Newton is John Krasinski lives here. And
Jim from The Office, for those that don't know.
Exactly. And he started Some Good News during COVID and just sharing positive stories all around. He did special graduations for people that couldn't graduate in person, and he's amazing. So
yeah, he got ripped too. He's not Jim from The Office anymore. His new show. Well, he did that movie where he got really big and kind of cut up. That was a military movie, and then his show right now, if it's still going, is he's some kind of spy or something. I think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the weather. You have touched on it that it's pretty cold, and I saw on your Instagram, was that yours or somebody else's? Somebody posted about a foot of snow or something that you just got. So how much did you just get? And then tell us in general. Do you get a lot of snow?
So the answer to that is a little bit complex, but yes, we tend to get a lot of snow. This year has been really mild compared to other years. The first year we moved here, we used to tell the kids, they don't cancel school here for a few inches or even 9 inches, right? And the first week we lived here was negative 10 degrees. And there was a massive storm. And they canceled school like the first 2 days of the year. So it was really funny. We were like, no, they never do that. So yeah, you do get spurts of snow. We even had snow once on Halloween, which was a little interesting. I think even the locals thought it was a bit odd. So so this past weekend was a snow blizzard, and I think they called it the snow bomb, I think is how it was labeled. And we had like 20 inches in like 24 hours. So there was definitely a lot of shoveling. The great thing of loving about living in New England, among many things, is if you have a huge snowstorm, they plow the streets literally overnight, especially in Newton, which is where I'm at. And you can go to work the next day. You can move around, and they make that really, like, I think people expect that. And it's amazing how quickly they do that. So in terms of weather, that's kind of winter. It's probably the longest winter I've ever lived in terms of a city that I've lived in. And that can easily go to May, definitely April. So by March, people are ready to take their spring breaks in really warm climates. The summers in New England are the best. And that's usually from the middle of June till almost like really the end of September. Everyone tends to go to the Cape, Martha's Vineyard, Nantucket. Again, really great second home markets. And we can talk about that if you'd like to touch on that. And then, of course, the mountains. So mountains during the summer, New Hampshire, Vermont, beautiful, big hikes, mountains. You can also ski in. And it's very, I feel like it's an underrated Four Seasons destination, but it really is a destination, and you really do get the 4 seasons. So, and spring is like maybe 2 weeks. So you could have azaleas out and there could be snow on the ground.
Yeah, it sounds about right. We used to, until I quit skiing, which was, 3 years ago, we would go to Vermont, and in high school, we always went to Vermont and took a trip at least once a year. And I think we always went in like April or something, which I always thought, isn't it over up there? Here, the mountain closed like 2 months ago and we're
Right,
still
right.
up there skiing. So it's pretty nice. And it was starting to get slightly warm. Still would have been better to go a little bit earlier in the year, I think. But whatever. All right. So what about, so you get all this snow, 20 inches or so, you said, and cities have these old, sometimes one-way, single-lane streets like in Harrisburg. Even with, we're ready for it. We got the plows, we got the salt. They're starting the night before. They're doing all these things. But even those little roads, sometimes there's secondary roads that don't get done for a few days, or even a bunch of snows ends up pushing big packs of snow, and the roads, even if they're plowing it, get smaller and smaller. There's an ice sheet that never kind of goes away, icier and icier. So with all this snow downtown, does it get are there certain roads that kind of suck, or is it hard for people that
Oh,
live
for
downtown
sure.
to get their parallel parked cars out? Or
Oh,
I've
yeah.
also heard like some cities, I don't think we ever do it in Harrisburg, but some cities will plow it and then also pick it up, put it in dump trucks and get it off of the street completely.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
how is it there?
They actually put, the city puts on restrictions for having your car on the street. So many times you have to move it. There's definitely side streets that don't get hit for a couple of days. I agree with you there. There was an emergency ambulance that actually had to get pushed by people in order to get it from being unstuck in the snow. So, but again, snow doesn't really stop people here. For them, it's just like a natural thing. They still stand outside and people go to restaurants and that sort of thing. I mean, in Newton, we kind of hunkered down a little bit more and everything was pretty much, closed and in lockdown. So it's a great excuse to spend time with family and to catch up on your real estate conversations.
Totally. I always used to love snow days, and we don't really have them anymore because even if it does get canceled, they got to go to Zoom class, so it's never a snow day. So a little bit sad, a little bit, but yeah, I love snows and making ice cream with the snow and all the stuff that comes along with it. So moving the cars, where do you move your car to? What if you don't have a garage or a driveway, or what do you do?
You know, I think you just move it into other areas that have bigger parking lots. I don't really know exactly. I think a lot of people just either keep it there and get fined. Who knows?
I think that's what I did when I lived in the city. Or it was the street cleaning days. I would always
Oh,
forget. I was just, well,
yeah.
I think every month I just pay, I pay a $40 bill every month to miss it and
Oh
get
yeah,
my
you
fine every
definitely
month.
have a parking budget here. You just accept that you're going to get tickets, and so you just make that part of your monthly budget.
Yeah.
So
Part of living
yeah,
in a city, and you get good at parallel parking. I'm the
oh,
best parallel.
sure.
I guarantee I can beat anybody. Anybody out there, you want to challenge me, I'll crush you in parallel parking.
I learned a lot
Uh,
about that in Europe. I'll tell you that. You definitely had to parallel park and be really good at it because the spaces were super small. So yeah, I'll challenge you.
nice. Let's do it. And I'll even do it with a minivan, not a little
Okay,
compact
maybe you
car.
win.
So we talked about driving a little bit in the commute. So if you're in the city and it snows a lot, you might have to wait till they get the plowed out and you might have to shovel out or whatever. But commuting in general, do people that work in the city, do most people, well, number one question, I guess, is do people work in the city mostly and you're mostly coming from, say, Newton into the city every morning? Or what's the commuting structure like? Are people, it's mostly the outskirts moving into the city, or what is it?
I think most people prefer to take public transportation. And so you do have trains that go directly into South Station from the suburbs where we are. So Wellesley, Newton will definitely do that. There is really good commuter rails and good transportation. And I think people are also, love their cars. But you can see that it's very much transitioning to public transportation. Uh, some people who are very Boston Marathon focused will actually run to work and run back. And that is a good, 15 miles. So they use it for training. Boston Marathon goes straight through our area on Commonwealth Avenue right here in Newton. I can tell you how many times we can just walk straight up, cheer people on, lose my voice because I'm there for like 2 hours and so impressed with that. So but that's probably a little segue to the commute. But it's not as bad as New York, but it's definitely timely if you go at a certain time, and then yeah.
And you have a lot of public transportation like the big cities have. Here in Harrisburg, we got some bus systems and things, but we're not known for our public transportation system. Most people drive places, and everywhere has parking lots and whatnot. So it makes sense that the public transportation will be utilized a lot. Do you have easy passes and toll roads if you do get on a highway to go somewhere a little bit further away or something? You have easy passes?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Do you have any bridge tolls or anything? Are there bridges at all? You have a lot of bridges? You're right next to the water.
No bridge tolls like in New York. No.
And then let's talk about, I hit edit instead of bring up. There it is. There we go. All right. So where are people working? Are they working? What do you got? You're the state capital there. So obviously you have the state government there that keeps it somewhat steady, like here in Harrisburg and Albany, New York, and some others that I've talked to. It's kind of even Steven, even if there's ups and downs, not perfectly even Steven, but keeps it a little bit steady. What else is there other than the state government that employs people?
Yeah, so this area attracts mostly biotech industry is really big here. And so people move from other countries to be part of that, start their, set up a drug here that is getting a lot of MIT or Harvard grads that come in and help build that up. There's a lot of that. Financial services is a big one too. And let's see. So we have biotech, financial services. I would say those are basically the two ones. Because the schools here are very attractive, like Harvard, Yale, MIT. So you do get a lot of international students, and they end up staying here. So I would say people move here for education as well.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's tons of colleges, as do we here. And I don't know if the state in Albany does too. A lot of the state capitals tend to have a lot of colleges centered around them. I don't know if there's a reason for that, but I was going to bring that up. So you've got the education, you've got the state government there, you've got biotech and finance, and then any military?
I mean, coming from DC, I would say no, but there is a small presence there. Yeah, I mean, there's huge.
Compared to down here around, even we get the overflow. Actually, we have tons of military. But yeah, so compared to there, probably not much.
Yeah.
And then what about medical? You got hospitals, obviously, that's growing everywhere, but medical's a big employer as well.
Yes. Huge community, obviously best hospitals as well. Brigham Young and Beth Israel, Boston Medical, Boston Children's. It's huge, absolutely. And they come and they do internships, and then they just stay as well. I mean, so my joke is in DC, every other house, every other person you met was an attorney. So you always had to mind your P's and Q's, and you had to also make it very clear which side of the aisle you were on, so you knew what kind of conversations to have. Here, every other house is a doctor or a therapist. There's more therapists in this area. And I'm outside of Boston and Newton. It's a huge attraction for people who are looking, who had just either finished their internship and now they're doctors and they want more space. They have kids or ready to grow a family. So there's a huge community of doctors and surgeons and, like I said, therapists. It's just like on every other corner. It's amazing. So if you need someone, there's usually someone on your street, and they're super friendly to offer advice or move you, share referrals. So again, it's great.
So if you got mental health issues, Boston might be a great place for you to go. What about you? But what if it's all therapists? All the therapists go there. Now they're giving each other therapy. I found that lots of therapists I've met are kind of the crazy ones themselves a lot of the times, but we won't get into that. So other employers, so you got all the major ones. Anything else you want to say about that? Do you have any big brands that came out of Boston that people would think of? Boston Baked Beans? Am I thinking right?
Yes. New Balance is a big one here. And let's see. Converse just set up their big flagship here, so that's been a really good new addition. So Yeah, I
Oh,
mean,
ports. That's what I was going to ask.
which
Ports.
one?
You're right there. There's got to be a port somewhere. That's got to employ people. Container ships, any of that kind of stuff?
Oh yeah. So again, going back to the seaport area, that's been a huge change and attraction there. A lot of warehouses changing over. East Boston, my goodness, completely exploded, and we're also right on the water. Um, that area has been really interesting to follow and see what's been going on there. It's been a huge attraction, and it's interesting because you're kind of near the airport and people just are not even bothered by that, so the noise level is not bad, and people just love the views because you're literally on the other side of Boston, from the water, so you can see from that area over into the city. So yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. And then you touched on the airport, so we'll start there as far as what to do. So if you're trying to get out of Boston, we're going to talk more about what you can do in Boston. But if you wanted to get out of Boston and fly somewhere, Boston has its own international airport.
Yep, it has its own international airport, its own international terminal. JetBlue is obviously the big carrier here, United as well, but you can go pretty much anywhere from JetBlue to any country. Well, pretty much the Caribbean is a huge one here. Yeah, we went to Switzerland a couple of years ago to visit my husband's family. They live in the Zurich area, and Swissair, you can just go straight there. So a lot of direct flights to Europe for sure.
And then are there any small airports, like for those people, private jets, little four-seater Cessnas, all that kind of stuff? Are there smaller ones around too?
Yeah, I would say so people will probably go to Providence in Rhode Island to get flights there as well. I'm trying to think of other ones. There's obviously a small airport on Cape Cod.
And they might just go out of Boston too, I guess. I don't know if they have to.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a rule that Cessnas have to go out of some.
No,
if I was in a little Cessna, I don't think I would want to take off at the
yeah,
major.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm like a bird up there. They can't even see me or anything. So, what is there to do in Boston? Let's start with food. You said you're a foodie, so I got to know what kind of food. You said Mexican food. Maybe shout out your favorite Mexican place, or if there's a couple places or whatever you want to say about food.
Mexican is probably not their forte, but we do have one or two spots that has met our criteria because we're pretty particular, being from Texas. So one of the places we love is called Bar Taco. I think they have a couple locations. We tend to like the seaport area. We kind of make a day out of it, and we love walking along the harbor and the wharf area.
Is it kind of like, is it kind of like, what's that in Baltimore? Isn't there like a, there's like a port there. I forget what it's called. There's a name for it, but there's like what you're describing in Baltimore too.
Exactly. I don't know why I'm blanking on that. Interesting.
Fells Point?
Yes, that
sounds right. Maybe not. I don't know.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I relate it to like Georgetown in DC. So you've got you have boats that go by. You can dock your boat. There's residential real estate right there that overlooks the water, and then you have a ton of restaurants and eateries. It's very walkable, and that's probably what if I would recommend people to move when they move to Boston. I would really try and figure out if they want to be near the water, and that's an area that I would recommend. So
gotcha. And then sports. What about sports? You got sports up there, Red Sox, obviously, and all the other stuff. And you guys are hardcore about your sports, kind of like Philly. I don't know who's more hardcore about their sports. Philly will overturn your car, the team bus, and all that stuff if they lose. So even if they only win by like a little bit, they might be pissed off and do stuff. So tell us about the sports teams up there.
So you have hockey. The Bruins here are really, the other thing about here is you have your diehards for different games, right? So you've got your Bruins fans, you've got your Celtics fans, your New England Patriots, and obviously your Red Sox. So I think every other person that I've met here has, year-round tickets, and they usually buy it in groups because they're just that sought after. So I would say for us, it's probably the Red Sox. Why?
Gotcha.
Because it's more of a winter, it's more of a summer sport, to be honest. And we love going to the stadium. It's not very far from here. You can actually take the metro. You can actually trade. Yeah. So.
And is Red Sox Stadium, is that where you would go to see a big concert? Like,
yeah, Fenway.
I don't know, Taylor Swift or whoever packs stadiums these days? Is that where you would go?
I don't know if Taylor Swift would go to Fenway. I think they would go to TD Garden, which is where the Celtics play. And Maroon 5 would be at Fenway. I think they did like a small, thing there. Fenway is actually really interesting. That whole area is also very sought after. They have like something called Timeout Market. And you can go ice skating as well in the winter there. They have all these different little eateries. That area is super attractive for actually a lot of the students who come here for college. So, and obviously Boston's lobster rolls is huge. Fish, North End, which is kind of like Little Italy.
You have to say lobster.
Lobster,
right?
Yeah. Well, and don't even get me started on all the different slang and things that special words and the accent. Wicked smart, which I'm probably not going to ever do it justice.
When you talk to people outside of the area, obviously I'm not getting much of a Boston accent or any isms or anything really. But when you talk to other people that have heavy Boston accents and isms and whatnot, does it come out of you a little bit more?
No.
No.
Full stop. No.
And then what about like festivals and fireworks and arts fests and all these, I call them pop-up festivals or whatever you want to call them. Do you have all that kind of stuff in the city proper?
Absolutely.
And then do you also have them in the suburbs, like in Newton and that kind of place?
Yeah, absolutely. So there is an esplanade, which is along the water that kind of connects Cambridge and Back Bay. And I can't remember the name of it. It's I'll have to come of it. It's like an amphitheater at one point. I can't remember the name of it right now. And you can watch the fireworks there. They have outdoor concerts. It's kind of like a big park area. We have Boston Commons, which is in the Back Bay area, and that's just like a big park. People are definitely, that's like a destination landmark. You can feed the ducks there. Of course, you can bring your dogs. There's all kinds of, you can do yoga. There's all kinds of things. Seaport, again, just going back to that, they have like a lot of green spaces there, and you can go there for the fireworks. Matter of fact, one of my favorite restaurants is Davos, and you can sit inside and you can see the fireworks right over the water, and super great there. As far as Newton goes, one of the things that I really love, and my daughter is like a big artist, so they do like what they call open art, like Newton open studios, and there's a lot of very talented people who are artists here, from pottery to jewelry to paintings, and that's usually in April, and so that's a big attraction for here.
And what about museums? There's obviously a ton of history up there. Are there museums to go along with all the history?
Oh yeah, for sure. You have the Boston Fine Arts. You have the most charming one that I've been to is the Isabella Stewart Garden. And she was quite an art collector, sort of ahead of her time, bringing in lots of art from Italy. And so when you go there, it kind of feels like you're in her home. So yeah. And then there's just lots of like historical homes that have been turned into museums in and around Newton. But history, incredible. You have the Freedom Trail, of course, that you can walk through all of Boston, and you get to stop in different little areas, and they have all these like little plaques along the way, so you can learn a lot about the history. And Paul Revere's house is in North End. Yep.
Paul Revere. So that's where his ride was, Boston.
Yes. So yes.
I heard a story about this. Did you know he went south, or he went some direction, and there was another person who went the other direction. So there were two people that did what he did, but he was the one that got all the credit for it because he was super involved in the community. It was somebody doing a speech about making yourself known or something. And he was like, did you ever hear about so-and-so? I don't even remember the name, and I just heard it yesterday. But go ahead. So Paul Revere was there, and you can see his house?
Yes, the old church in North End is actually a pretty big landmark. There's just all these really incredible historical tours. I highly recommend doing the Freedom Trail. Just plan to spend an entire day doing it, and don't choose the hottest day in the summer to do it.
Unless you're a Floridian, like lots of our friends are, and they seem to hate the cold. So maybe you want to pick the hottest day of the summer. Maybe you could do
exactly.
it.
For me, being from Texas, there's really no hot day here. So.
Yeah, there you go. And then what about a driving vacation? If you here, Jersey Shore is pretty much the go-to place. We go other places too, but the Jersey Shore is probably the most frequented place for a driving vacation here in central Pennsylvania. So up there, if you were driving, what would be the go-to vacation? Or if there's multiple ones, where would you go for a driving vacation?
So a driving vacation, I would
a drive-to vacation, not a vacation where you're constantly driving.
I would drive to Maine. Yeah. For me, Maine, and our family loves to go there. Northeast Harbor. Portland is like an hour and a half from here. So if you're a foodie, again, like us, then you can make that a weekend destination for sure. So when I'm thinking of driving, I think about like a really nice summer vacation. For me, it would be Maine. Yeah. Nice.
I'm with you there. It's on my list to go up to Maine. That's the end point of the Appalachian Trail. Could be the start too, I suppose. You could do it either way. But there's 100-mile wilderness or something. It's supposed to be the most remote section of the Appalachian Trail. And obviously anybody that's been to Maine knows that it's pretty awesome if you like outdoor stuff. So I'm with you there. Yeah. And now let's talk about what everybody wants to know. If they're moving up to Boston or over or down to Boston, wherever you're coming from, what are you going to get for the money? Obviously, it's a huge city, and you touched on the demand there and the growing demand. So I'm guessing it costs a little bit more than us here in central Pennsylvania. So you can compare it to us. We're probably at about $300,000 to get that, I'd say, kind of the starter American dream home. For that, you're probably getting a 2-story, most likely a 2-car garage still at that price point, probably a 0.2 acre in a like 60s to 80s built neighborhood in a suburb. So fairly decent here, although it used to be 250 would maybe get you that a year or two ago. So it has gone up a good 20% or so in the last couple of years. But 300 is what kind of our entry point to that American dream detached home. So how does that compare to up there?
Definitely not that price point, much higher. So if you wanted, you can buy a condo for $800,000 in Boston, a 2-bedroom. You can buy it also in Brookline, Arlington, which is right outside Boston. I would say.
How big would that condo be for $800,000? Is that a 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom efficiency?
Yeah, it's a 2-bed. You can get a 2-bedroom. I mean, definitely 1-bedrooms in these new builds, right? So if you're down in Seaport or over in Seaport, that's barely a price, really basic, right? So that one would probably be more of a 1-bedroom. Again, as you get further out into the city, like I said, there's a lot of different neighborhoods you can get more, or get more for your buck. Parking is pretty much never included, so you could add a lot more on for that, for sure. So again, like most cities, limited parking is always a concern. And if you head out to Metro West, which is pretty much where I'm at in the greater Boston area, 800,000 is, I would say it is not common. If you take just Newton and Wellesley, which is, 2 of the fastest growing cities outside of Boston, I would say it's probably more like over $1 million. And many of those are already done, but as with most people, they want to add their own, style and customize it however they like. So, yeah.
So in the city proper, obviously there's a lot of old real estate, 1800s, 1900s, maybe even some 17 or 16, maybe some even older stuff. But so is all that stuff redone at this point? Are there still any that you could get cheap and cheap, quotes around that, and redo, or has everything been renovated at this point?
Oh no, there's still properties to be found. As you already know from real estate, hidden properties do exist. Um, and everyone is looking for one because obviously we have well, there's low inventory. And, but yeah, I would say the majority of people who are living in the city are millennials, and a lot of people from our area who have lived in their homes for a long time and they're ready to downsize and they want, full service buildings and that sort of thing. So obviously they're updated, they're new, they're move-in ready. In our area, you have a variety of style of homes, from Victorian to Tudors to ranch style living, and yeah, and then you've got a lot of the new builds craft style homes. So, yep.
And the older homes in the city, do people also tear them down and put up a whole new structure or a high rise or anything like that? Or I'm guessing some of the historic stuff is preserved and you can't do anything with. But I would guess also that if people could, they'd prefer to knock it down and throw up something twice as big to sell more condos or whatever. So can you tear down stuff?
There's a lot of brownstones. So if you take like South End or Back Bay, there's a lot of brownstones, right? And so some people will take a home and subdivide it into condos if that's doable. Obviously, it's a longer process and much more money. But I would say they preserve a lot, unless you're building a whole new building, which is like in like East Boston or in Seaport. They're very particular about keeping a lot of the historical facade. So we have a new mayor right now, and a new woman mayor. And her focus is a lot more on affordable housing, and that can be, construed in a lot of different ways. So development is taking a different, is going to look a little bit different this year. So, but in the suburbs, a lot of houses are being, renovated and completely rebuilt it's a modern living, right? So.
And then what about HOAs out in the suburbs, these new construction developments? Do you have HOAs? And then to what extent do you have HOAs? Are you gated with pools and golf courses and restaurants and daycares and all that stuff? We don't have any of that kind of stuff. Well, we have one or two, and they're becoming a little bit more common. Definitely no gates. We don't have any fences around anything here.
Yeah, we don't have gates. We don't have gates, and there's not really a lot of gated communities where I'm at. And
which means they don't have amenities like golf courses and all that stuff? Because I feel like that's why they put I never understood the fences and the gates. Is there that much crime that you have to keep people out? And then somebody said, well, it's all the amenities. They're trying to keep people away from the parks and all this stuff that's supposed to be just for the neighborhood. So.
No, there's golf courses here. They're mostly membership based. So you can have access for that. They do have a community pool in Newton. There's community centers that have pool access, and they'll open up for the summer. I don't know if you realize this, during COVID, there was a trend where people would rent out. You could come for like a day and swim in people's pools. So you don't have to access inside. You just let people use your pool. You pay a small fee, and that was just something that was really incredible. So regardless of the weather, we do have pools, and and people really enjoy that as well. So, but yeah, there's country clubs is really big out here as well, and lots of parks and green space. So yeah, lots to take advantage of.
And then a little bit of a segue there. My next question was going to be, what if somebody wants like a bunch of land? They want to live on 5, 10 acres, 20, an acre, or anything a little bit bigger than your typical lot. Somebody wants wooded or a farm or something. Can you still get that? How far outside of Boston would you have to go to get something like that?
So one area I would particularly focus on with that question is Sudbury, Sudbury, Bury. And it's it's much more rural, and you can get several acres. People also have horse farms there. And again, as a result of COVID, people moved out and they wanted more space. And so that's an area where there hasn't been a huge change in development. And so they tend to keep like a lot of its original character and style. That area has really boomed a lot. So that's probably, let's see, that's probably a 30-minute drive from the city.
Not bad. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then what about the luxury market? Obviously, you said, well, your entry point, the 800 to the million, that's pretty much our luxury probably starts at, we used to say 500,000. Now I would personally say 700 or 800 probably, maybe even a million. But your entry level is that our luxury price. So what would you define as luxury? What price point? And then what type of property is that luxury property?
So for me, luxury is not just a price point. It's also the service that you give. And I would say that if you live in the city, luxury can represent, a specific location in a specific neighborhood, and it could be parking is a luxury, right? Because there's a shortage of that. And obviously certain streets will command a higher price point, from anywhere from, I would say, 2 million up to 8 million, so, and these are just full on, they're super wide houses, probably 4 or 5 different levels. You know what I mean? So it's incredible. As far as the suburbs go in the Metro West area, if you take my city alone, Newton, which is like 6 mile by 6 miles, it has 13 villages. They're all very unique, and again, different price points. So, yeah, I would say probably 2 million is probably where I would say luxury. It becomes more of a luxury. And makes it more.
And then are there condos in these new high-rise buildings? Are there penthouses that are, you got the one bedroom 800 one? Are there ones that are a million, 2 million, and sky's the limit, I guess, depending on how you furnish it and finish it?
3 million
for the base price.
Some of them.
And how many square feet would something like that be?
So again, well, it could be anywhere between 2,400 up to maybe 2,800.
Yeah, enough space. Not a ton, but enough. How much space can a single human body take up at any given point in time? I never understood why people need 10,000 square foot houses. What are you doing in this house? You better be entertaining a lot or something. But I'll sell it to you all day long at the same time. So anything else you want to say about what people can get for the money there?
I just think it's very much depending on your lifestyle. Do you want to walk to certain places? Again, people are drawn to that. You have your commuter rail. I think that in general, the small towns, like the one here in Newton, each one has like its own characteristic, its own style. And I think people are attracted to those neighborhoods, those townships. That's the other thing. It's like when you get out of the city of Boston, it's a township. So if you take Newton, for example, that's a city, but then inside that is a neighborhood, and you can actually, say you're from that neighborhood, and you can actually put it on your envelope when you send letters. So you don't just have to say Newton. That was one of the hardest things for us to understand when we first got here, because each town has its own mayor, has its own representatives, and it can be very different from, less than a mile away if you change neighborhoods. So I would just say that it's all depends on the lifestyle that you want. And again, doctors will want to move out of the city in order to live in New Hampshire because they want a different style of life on the weekends, and they'll drive an hour from New Hampshire just to, to have that. So,
yeah. And people can obviously always reach out to you or someone up there to give them a nice tour. Maybe they rent for a while or something, figure out exactly where they want to be and which township speaks to them. And we're a Commonwealth here also, and we have townships and all that kind of stuff too, so we can relate to all these tiny little pockets of different rules. Also, you got to check. Absolutely. Just because you could do Airbnb a mile down the road doesn't mean you can do Airbnb down here So yeah, but hook up with Katherine or somebody like that if you need to figure out where exactly you need
Yeah,
to move.
we work with a lot of referrals, and agent to agent referrals has been a huge part of my business. Relocation obviously is very big here. Our feeder markets are coming from, actually, interesting enough, California. Definitely DC is a huge attraction. Florida, of course, you have the snowbirds that want to go back and forth. And so, yeah, and I'm
So
happy to
some of
help.
those snowbird people, if they're retired, they get two houses. They get a up north house that they go to in the summer when it's hot to enjoy all the lushness in the woods and all the stuff that we get up here, and then they go down there in the winter to stay warm and never live anywhere full time, I guess. All right, our last question, which has nothing to do with real estate or Boston or anything, but does have to do with you. If you could do
Okay.
anything else other than sell real estate, what would you do?
Oh my goodness. Well, I'm a traveler at heart. I would love to do travel videos and go around to different parts of the world and share stories, do videos about that. Of course, follow people. I love the essence of going to a new place and meeting the locals. I would love to make my entire life just traveling around and getting a real essence and sharing that with the world. So, and a huge part of who I am is philanthropy, and I love the community and giving back. So, yeah, if
Any
money,
nonprofit you want to shout out? Do you have a pet nonprofit you want to shout out before we close it out?
well, there's many, but I would just say, because I'm here and I'm super local focused, I do a lot of community work with community cooks, which is very family based. We can make meals at home and deliver it, and we love doing that. Our kids are big cooks. That's one. And the other one is called Newton Food Pantry. I deliver food every Wednesday to those that are in need in my community. And of course, there's a fairly large senior community area, so I deliver food for them. And that's, yeah, I'm super excited about both of them. And again, mostly Brookline, Chestnut Hill, Newton area. So that's a big one. Yeah.
Awesome. You and my
Yeah.
dad would get along. He's been working with the Meals on Wheels here locally forever, it seems like. And I like to volunteer too. I don't do the Meals on Wheels, but I've often thought I should do Meals on Wheels with my dad. It'd be a nice kind of fun bonding time to drive around and deliver meals.
Yeah, there was an organization that was started here again during COVID, called Feed the Fight, and bringing food to healthcare workers, hospitals was a big effort that came out of that. And then Newton Neighbors Helping Newton Neighbors, again, just a Facebook group that just came on, blew up, and was really helpful. Anybody and everybody, whatever the need was, there was always someone there. That's the other thing I would say in general. Like, Boston kind of has I think the world sees Boston as sort of a harsh area, maybe due to the weather, but they're very giving people, and it's been really good to connect with and hear a lot about their efforts, because they do generally want to give back.
Yeah. So if you're on Facebook, hit up that Facebook group. Newton Neighbors? Newton Neighbors? Is that what it is?
Newton Neighbors Helping Newton Neighbors. There's also, you can just go to my Instagram, Katherine Kranenburg Realtor, and I post a lot of stuff there around the outreach that I do. And yeah.
And I'll link to your Instagram so everybody can check that in the description, up or down, or wherever you're watching or listening on. How about you say all your information, your phone number, email, and website out loud so anybody that might be listening to this on audio can jot it down quick.
Sure. So my website is my name, Katherine Kranenburg, and my email is movemetoboston@gmail.com. And I still kept my DC number. It's like become part of my brand. So it's 703-307-1024. And I do a lot in the DMs in Facebook, which you can find me there, and a lot in Instagram, which is another place how you and I met. The power of social media.
Totally. It's pretty fantastic. I've met a lot of people over the last year or two, and Clubhouse has been a big reason for that too. So reach out to Katherine if you need anything up in Boston, or contact me if you need to hook up with any agent around the country or around the globe, whether you're buying or selling in Harrisburg or central Pennsylvania or anywhere, like I said, around the world. Call me, text me, email me, throw a rock through my window, send a carrier pigeon, whatever you need to do. We still need inventory pretty bad. I didn't ask you that. Still need inventory, right? Did you say that?
Oh yeah, we still need inventory, and I would say we're probably at a month's supply right now. And so the challenge is with any market is where are they going to go? And so, yeah.
So if you got a house to sell and you don't need to buy one, that's the best scenario you're in. Or if you have an investment that you want to liquidate or something, that's the best scenario to be in right now, I think. So reach out to me or go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was going to say a lot of people just decided not to return to Boston. And so they're, that investment is, that's what's been coming on the market more and more, because people are like, well, I'm just going to do this now. Or they move to the Cape and their house, that they've lived in forever. So yeah, I mean, it's a really interesting area. I highly recommend it to, for anyone who wants a smaller international city. This is a great place to be.
Nice. So reach out to Katherine and hit up, what'd you say? Bar Taco. I wrote that down and it's in my head for some reason. And I wanted to ask, no, I'm not going to ask about it. It's a bar of tacos. Is that why it's called Bar Taco?
Yeah. It's a national restaurant, but if we want to stick to my favorite food, that was definitely one of them. But we have an amazing seafood restaurant that we love in North End called Mare. And it's definitely one of our favorites among many. There's just, you can't just choose one food here. Boston is such a food place. We love it. We haven't had a bad meal.
That's awesome. That's a good resounding yes to, is the food good there? And you got to get the lobster if you're up there, because obviously everybody knows they got lobster up there. So hit up Kat or myself if you need to move up there or just vacation up there. Thanks for watching and listening. Thank you, Kat, for being here, and say goodbye to everybody.
Yep. Bye. Have a great day.